Nearly home. Isn't home where we all want to be? Reba here for Realtor.com, the pros' #1 most trusted app. Finding a home is like dating. You're not just looking for a place to live, you're searching for the one. That's where Realtor.com comes in. Like any good matchmaker, they know exactly where to look. With over 500,000 new real listings straight from the pros every month, you could find your perfect match today. Ranch style with a pool, barn dominium with an in-law suite? Realtor.com's got 'em. Modern craftsman with a big yard and a treehouse out back? Realtor.com will have you saying, yep, that's the one. No more swiping. It's time to start finding. Download the Realtor.com app today, 'cause you're nearly home. Make it real with Realtor.com.
Pros #1 most trusted app based on August 2025 proprietary survey. Over 500,000 new listings every month based on average new for sale and rental listings. July 2024 to June 2025.
Grave Tone.
Welcome to Grave Tone Podcast, where horror comes to life in every form it takes. I'm Megan.
I'm Arthur.
And we're doing a bit of a deep dive today.
A little bit,
Kind of, yeah. I mean, there's only so much we can do in terms of finding out information for something that technically never came to fruition in the first place.
Yeah, that's it. We were never there.
No,
so.
and also I think it's hard because there were only a couple of films that were technically officially released, and there was never any follow through with things. So it's not the same thing as doing a deep dive on maybe a whole franchise that exists already and for whom there are multiple films or something, right? It's harder to talk about, but all of that means that we had been talking about something that we were interested in exploring a little bit. I think this came about because for the first time ever, more recently, I want to say within the last 3 months, we sat down and watched the 2017 Mummy movie with Tom Cruise.
Yeah.
And you had never seen it before.
No.
It was only my second time ever watching it because I had not seen it since it came out. And
it was almost on purpose that I haven't seen it.
Yeah,
so.
I know. Yeah. And I mean, now you're I don't think I'm any better for having watched it. And I don't know, I guess it kind of got us thinking a little bit about the whole universal dark universe that was meant to be happening, and that Mummy movie was kind of meant to be at the crux of, but the failure at a catastrophic level of it really led to this franchise not existing. So kind of what it was supposed to be, how it kind of started, what it was supposed to do, how it really did not do any of those things. And then sort of where those properties and stuff are kind of, I guess, sitting now to a degree and what's happening with them, what we're seeing in more recent years on that side of things.
Yeah, that's it exactly.
Yeah.
So before we dive into that, just reminder for everyone, check out our socials at Gravetone Pod. There's a couple of cool things we're doing. We have a cool collab next week, scheduled for next week with some of our friends, Horror Roulette podcast. They're really awesome. Yeah. And then we also might have an interview with someone from a recent
release. Hopefully.
Recent release. Yeah.
Hopefully coming up soon.
That's it.
Yeah.
Right. So to dive into this, essentially, we kind of need to rewind back 2017, as you mentioned, right? So Universal suddenly decided to say that they have something bold, something that they're envisioning to do, right? And they said, we want to bring back our monsters.
Yeah.
They didn't want to do just one monster and not a remake and not a standalone revival type of thing. They wanted to do a whole cinematic universe. I'm talking Dracula, Frankenstein, the Mummy, the Invisible Man, Wolfman, all connected, all modern, all kind of sharing the same screen or, universe of it and stuff.
Yeah, I guess existing in the same universe.
Exactly, that's it. Yeah. Okay. So they started to lay the groundwork for something that they called the Dark Universe. I know. Right? I'm pretty sure people have heard about it.
I remember when this was announced, it sounded so
cool, right?
I was so excited. This should have been my MCU.
So actually, that's exactly what it is.
Yeah.
Is that the problem is that they announced the Dark Universe and it died almost instantly, in a sense, right?
Yeah.
So it kind of started with the fact that the MCU was doing really well.
Yeah.
And having a success, and a lot of studios, I guess, or big production companies were like, hey, what kind of,
what do we have our hands on, I guess?
What do we have, in a sense? So, Universal, they didn't own Marvel.
No.
They didn't have DC.
No. Harry Potter, none of that
That's
stuff.
it, none of that stuff.
No.
But they had something that is technically just as iconic
So true.
from back in the days.
Yep.
Right? So they had the Universal Monsters. I'm talking about the original movies, like the 1931 Dracula and Frankenstein, also of the same year. The Mummy was in 1932.
Yeah.
Invisible Man was 1933. Wolfman, 1941, I think.
Yeah, I believe so, yeah.
Yeah, that's it. So like these characters were basically the foundation of Hollywood horror, really, if you think about it, right? And then like they've done that run for a long time with
Yeah.
all the sequels and the spin-offs and
Oh, God.
you know, it became like a whole thing with it started with all those movies and then it transitioned to something else and then it was kind of like made not fun of, but like they went into the comedy angle of
definitely,
things
yeah.
with that stuff. So anyways,
If you guys have ever seen like the Abbott and Costello.
that's it.
stuff,
Exactly. That's it. Yeah, that's it. But by the 2000s, essentially, like that kind of property was mostly dormant, right? Like it was, like I mentioned, just parodied, merchandised everywhere and anything,
definitely, yeah.
And then the MCU happened, right? So the
Yeah.
first Iron Man was released in 2008, I believe, and
Yeah.
it did really well.
Yeah.
And there was a whole thing. And then that's it. So all these studios were like, what do we have? And Universal was like, well, let's do a dark universe with the monsters that we have. So in 2014, okay, they started to quietly develop the shared monster universe.
Right, yeah.
Okay. So initially, allegedly, they hired Alex Kurtzman and Chris Morgan to oversee it.
Right.
Who were those guys?
Okay, so Alex Kurtzman, I took a look through because I was like, I don't know every single filmmaker and writer, director,
Well,
producer. So
Why not, Megan?
No,
God
I know.
damn
God,
it.
why am I not an encyclopedia? So I took a look through some of his credits, film and television. He's largely now transitioned into television. He got his start there because in the late 90s, he was both a writer and executive producer on Hercules: The Legendary Journey and Xena Warrior
Wow,
Princess.
okay.
Yeah, like
That's
like
pretty
OG
cool.
OG back in the day.
Yeah.
And then had like some different things from there. He did directing, writing, and a lot of EP work, like executive producing work on shows like Alias, Fringe, a bunch of those, Hawaii
Okay.
Five-0 later
Big
on,
shows.
all that stuff, the Sleepy
Yeah.
Hollow TV series, like a lot of that different stuff. And now he's moved largely into the Star Trek universe.
Okay, cool.
He's a co-creator, writer, director, producer on Star Trek Discovery, which ran for several years, Star Trek Picard, and the current Star Trek Strange New Worlds.
Right, yeah.
Film-wise, it looks like he did a lot of writing early on in his career in the mid-2000s. He wrote The Island. Remember that movie with Scarlett Johansson and Ewan McGregor?
I actually like that movie
I know you
a
really like that
lot.
movie.
Yeah.
Apparently he's a frequent collaborator of Michael Bay.
Okay, well, that makes sense because that movie was
So he wrote
made by
that.
Michael
He
Bay.
wrote The Legend of Zorro, Mission Impossible 3,
Wait, which Legend of Zorro?
the second one, not
Oh.
good, not the original film. Mission Impossible 3, he wrote the script for Transformers.
Of course.
Right?
Makes sense.
The Star Trek film in 2009. He has an
right.
uncredited writing credit for Watchmen, Transformers Revenge of the Fallen, Amazing Spider-Man 2 in 2014.
Okay, yeah, so, like,
huge,
legit, yeah, legit.
huge. And still going, I should say, to this day. And it seems that on the other flip side of that, Chris Morgan does a lot in not really the directing space quite as much, but writing and producing is like a big key thing for him. And he's been largely involved with the Fast and the Furious franchise
Wow, okay.
since Tokyo Drift.
Wow. Okay,
So like since the mid 2000s, essentially, he's done like a ton of writing for pretty much almost every film following that in that franchise. He's written a bunch of stuff on the more action oriented side a little bit. Wanted, remember that movie?
Cool.
47 Ronin. That's a that's a Keanu film, isn't it? Yeah, that's it. Like like a bunch of those ones. Anyway, so yeah, and like to this day, he's doing that stuff. He's producing things. That's what his sort of focus seems to be.
Okay, so I mean, like, look, they got those people to oversee it. They obviously knew what they were doing, and those people also knew what they were doing just based on the whole.
They seem to
slew of
already have been
credits.
quite established. Yeah, that's
That's
it.
it, exactly right. So they Universal hired these guys
Yeah.
to oversee this whole situation, and they've assembled a writers' room, right? Something that Marvel was already doing
Of course.
early on. To
Is it weird to think that that wasn't like a super regular thing at the
I
time?
don't know
Is that,
if it
was that
was.
or maybe it was just for like something of this scale. They didn't have quite as big one because like every show and stuff would have a writer's room, quote unquote.
Yeah,
right?
but I think there was a writer's room for like the movie itself. But here in this case, what I'm talking about is that Marvel did it early on for the overarching universe.
Got it,
Yes.
got it.
Because
yes.
they started to map crossovers, sequels,
Yes,
shared
yeah.
mythologies,
Yeah, Kevin
how
Feige
characters exactly how the characters are going to start coming in, introducing them and stuff,
Yes,
right?
okay.
Like all that stuff.
I get you. Okay.
So it was like a deliberate way to engineer a franchise
Right.
essentially at
Yeah.
the beginning, because you got to start with that. You can't just make a movie and be like, oh, okay, well, now we have to shove this in here and somehow.
But we
and
didn't
whatever
plan
it is.
for it at all.
Right, that's
What
it.
you can
Makes
always
sense.
tell when there are sequels that kick off and there was no plan for that sequel because you're watching it and you're like, none of this was talked about in that first movie.
Yeah,
At
exactly.
all.
So all that part started, right, and they've started to kind of like engineer essentially a universe.
Yeah.
Right.
Okay.
Now, what happened is that first of all, the Dark Universe had technically a false start.
Right.
Yes.
Yeah.
So, something that I guess a lot of people might tend to forget,
Mm-hmm.
or maybe just because it wasn't talked about that much, because they maybe didn't want to start the Dark Universe off of that foot, is that it almost started in 2014,
Yep.
which is 3 years before the new Mummy was
Mummy.
released with Dracula Untold.
Right. Yeah.
So that movie actually ends with a modern day epilogue.
Yes, it
right?
does.
So the Dracula is alive in the present, and it's kind of like possibly teasing future stories, whatever, right?
Well, so my recollection of that, sorry, is that he runs into his, like a reincarnation of his wife,
Right.
essentially. And I think she introduces herself as Mina. So like Mina Harker,
Mm-hmm.
obviously from, Bram Stoker's Dracula. But obviously also this film doesn't follow the Bram Stoker story specifically. It goes further back because it's the origins of like Vlad Tepes
Right, that's it.
in
yes.
Wallachia in like what, the 1400s, if I'm not mistaken, in what is now Romania, essentially, because he was a prince at that time. Yeah.
That's it.
Yeah.
Exactly. So all that was potentially a setup
Yeah.
for the whole thing to start, but it didn't do well.
No, it didn't. No.
Yeah.
It's not a terrible film, but it's like a movie.
It's
you know?
okay.
Yeah.
Yeah.
I just like Luke Evans a lot. Maybe that's why.
How did it do?
Oh gosh, it got, let me double check actually before I move on to something else. So the film currently, I'm just going to give ratings for fun for no reason. It's got a 6.2 out of 10 on IMDb, which is not horrible.
Actually, that's not
considering.
bad.
No. Rotten Tomatoes, the tomato meter is sitting at 26% from critics and the popcorn meter at 58%, which makes more sense to
like,
me. I think it
yeah.
lives in that middle ground. Personally, I think it lives in that middle ground. According to what I'm seeing, the budget for the film was somewhere between the $70 to $100 million range. It's quite large scale and there's a lot of effects, so I'm not too shocked by that. And the box office take wound up being $217 million. So it's not terrible, but it didn't do that. What is it, 2.5 times or more
Something like
is
that.
successful,
for
blah,
it
blah.
to be barely good.
Yeah, so
so it wasn't like a breakaway
No.
or something that would have given them a lot of money, although
No.
Universal doesn't need that much money.
No, and they
that
were
would have
doing
given
it.
them a runway to continue this. Right?
Yeah, and they were
That's it.
doing it like, at that large scale, right? They released it in IMAX and stuff when it came out because of the scope of the story that they were telling and stuff and how there are a lot of battles in it, all that kind of stuff.
That's it,
Yeah.
exactly. So because of that, Universal probably panicked a little bit because it
Probably.
wasn't like a huge thing, right? And they were like, screw it, we're just going to remove from the canon. Like, this
Yeah.
is just whatever, we released it, a movie, right? So what happened behind the scenes is that they were like, okay, this didn't work. We need something much, much bigger.
Yeah.
Right? And this is where everything shifted towards The Mummy. The Mummy 2017. Okay. So
Good Lord, yeah.
yeah, so The Mummy, I guess, wasn't supposed to be just a movie because, right, it was supposed to launch the whole Dark Universe thing,
Yep,
right?
yep.
So in their quote-unquote, I guess, phase one of this, they went, like, all out as much as they could throw into this movie with basically everything.
Yeah.
They got Tom Cruise, which is, like, a global
Superstar,
Office.
huge name.
insurance,
Yes,
essentially.
yes, yeah. The name itself, like
For the
Tom
box
Cruise's name
office.
himself, will just bring people to
Exactly.
the movie theater.
Yeah. It is set in modern day,
Yes.
which again, right, like Dark Universe, they're starting something
Yeah.
new, whatever
Well,
it
what
is.
we had seen exactly to your point that you mentioned, right, about the epilogue of Dracula Untold. You're
Exactly,
like,
right.
oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
They also introduced Russell Crowe's character not Russell Crowe's character, Russell Crowe
Yes.
as Dr. Jekyll,
Yep.
who's running kind of like a secret monster organization that was talked about in the movie. There
And
were hints.
that I thought anyway when I watched it. I'm like, oh, this is
Exactly.
supposed to be the tie-in, right? Like we're gonna see
Yes.
Dr. Jekyll hide, whatever, in multiple films.
That's it.
And then it'll
Exactly. It
die
was supposed to
together.
be a thing, right?
Yeah.
They kind of like might have seeded future villains.
Yeah.
They teased a bit of the mythology and kind of like the behind the stuff
Yep.
of it. And it wasn't designed to be kind of like a standalone movie. It was supposed to be like an open the doors movie.
A kickoff
right?
to a
kickoff.
franchise.
That's
Yeah,
it,
yeah,
exactly.
yeah.
But I think what really happened is that, I guess, in my mind, is that instead of asking like, is this actually a good movie? You know?
They were just like, it's okay. Tom Cruise is in it. People will come and
Well, first of all, yes. But I feel like they were like, instead of being like, is this a good movie? They were like, does this launch a universe?
Yeah.
Which is the wrong way
yeah.
to go about this.
But it's not even God. We watched this more recently.
Yes.
This movie doesn't even have good setup. It's terrible. You can almost feel how many rewrites it underwent, and there's no connection between multiple different things. There is no fleshing out of characters. I don't give a fuck what happens to any of them. I'm like,
I know.
okay.
Yeah, it's like,
Yeah.
whatever.
And I also, maybe I'm wrong, I feel like this film did itself no favors. One, because they, instead of doing what most people, when most people hear the words dark universe, would have wanted, would have been a horror
well, exactly.
mummy
So
fucking movie.
That's where I'm getting at.
They didn't do that. They went the
Exactly.
action adventure route while, I don't know, ignoring the fact that like 18 years prior, we have a perfect action adventure
Yep.
version of The Mummy already. Why would you do this?
Exactly. So that's exactly it, right? So like this film was basically half monster movie, half an action blockbuster, and half a franchise trailer, and that's three halves.
That's three
That
halves.
does
They don't
not
make a
work,
whole.
Okay, it doesn't make sense. That is a problem already.
Yeah.
Right. So then when the movie was released, I don't think it did that well in terms of critics and whatever. Do you have the scores for it?
No, I do. Okay, so right now it's sitting at a 5.4 out of 10 on IMDb. The tomato meter is at 15%, and
Yep.
the popcorn meter is at 35. And even I feel like that's generous.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's it. What about in terms of its production budgets and?
But budget-wise, I will say, like, again, it's the fucking Tom Cruise of it all, isn't it? And
course.
probably the hype of a dark universe, if we're honest. I think that's probably what brought people into the theater. Budget is estimated. I don't know. They had all these estimations back in the day. They never had like official amounts. 125 to 195 million, which is like
Okay,
a
yeah,
huge
that makes sense.
difference. And box office total was 410 million globally.
Right, that's it. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So, it did what about double, which is
Yeah.
again not the success threshold of 2.5
Not
or
that they
something
were-
like that.
And not, 2017, not at that height of Marvel.
Yeah, when they were
where
doing
they were
billions of
making
dollars.
$1 billion. They were like, our budget was $450 million, but we made $1.5 billion globally, and so everybody
more.
and
That
every
was-
single blockbuster that came out was making $500+ million easily because that's what people were going to the movies for.
Exactly, that's it. So there's also an alleged estimate marketing budget of like 100 mil because it was marketed everywhere.
Yeah, they marketed the shit out of it because they were launching a friggin' universe.
Exactly right. So that makes sense.
Yes.
So like it does kind of sound okay, I guess, but like I said, it didn't really reach the success threshold.
No.
Take into account the marketing that is not in the production budget, as far
No.
as I know. Technically, this movie would have been either barely breaking even or like losing money, maybe. Anyways,
Yeah.
there's probably a lot of other things that we don't into account. Or even even if it made money by their standards, it's really
Mm-hmm.
not making anything. Which is not great, right? So like you are expecting this whole thing
Yeah.
to do really well and then to give you again this runway to create more movies.
Yes.
Because big stars and everything like that, and big production budgets and stuff, and you barely got anything back from it, right? So this is kind of like where they overplayed their hand a little bit with that movie, but also even before the 2017 Mummy was released.
Yeah.
They did Day by Universal. They released a studio photo. Have you seen that studio photo?
No.
So there's a studio photo. It's anything crazy.
Okay.
It's just kind of like actors sitting in a dark backdrop, whatever.
sure,
where
sure,
they're
sure,
posing and stuff and
Yeah.
like this. So you have Tom Cruise, Russell Crowe,
Yeah.
right? The two guys, Javier Bardem,
Yes.
Johnny Depp,
Okay.
and they're all assigned allegedly a monster
A
role.
monster. Oh, okay. They were all
Yes.
supposed to be playing different monsters. Got it.
Yep,
Yeah.
yep. And apparently was saying like, yes, this is happening.
Oh,
This is a legit
boy.
thing.
So who was who? Do we
right
know?
it, yes. So
Yeah.
that's it. So the planned films supposed to be Johnny Depp as Invisible Man,
Huh. Okay.
Javier Bardem as Frankenstein's monster,
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Angelina Jolie rumored as Bride of Frankenstein. Again, these are like
Ooh.
rumors, whatever and stuff.
Yep.
There was supposed to be Wolfman, which never confirmed, or at least I don't have the information. Was able to find it. Creature of
Okay.
the Black Lagoon, Phantom from the Opera.
Okay. Okay.
Right.
Okay.
But yeah, the problem, I guess, with that is that, fine, you're trying to create hype and get this all going and whatever
Mm-hmm.
it is, but I feel like, the audiences, especially around that time,
Yeah.
it was pretty hard to compete. It was very much a superhero-dominated box office in general. So the audience, I feel like we're not asking for this.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? Like there was no real demand. There was no real excitement about this. It was just not what was hyped up and what was doing really well during that time. There's always a flux of the types of movies that do really well
Yeah.
in terms of the genre or subgenre of it, right? So like back then it was the superhero stuff.
Yes.
Then like the zombies came back and the vampires came back a little bit, and then something else was, and then whatever is going on. So there's always some kind of a flux.
Yeah, there is.
And I think they
It's cyclical.
tried to push it into a different cyclical flux that was
Yeah.
really not the forte of that time.
There's a part of me that almost wonders if now, post, let's say 2020, as we've gotten more of the sequel, requel, reboot, remake types of horror films that we're getting now,
Yes.
and the big franchises having new entries into them, if it's almost something that would have worked better now with caveat, with a horror angle to it.
Exactly.
What people heard the words like I did. I remember at the time hearing things like Dark Universe, and I was like, this is sick. This is such a good idea because you can bring all of those monsters. You could bring them into modern day, whatever.
Of course.
But make it scary. Make it a horror film. I don't like. I got my action adventure Mummy. It's one of like my top 5 favorite movies of all time. I can watch it whenever,
Of course,
all the time.
yes.
You're never going to top the feeling that people have with that film because so many people are so attached to it.
Exactly. And like I have this later down the notes, but like we know that this could work. They've done the new Invisible Man
It was so
horror
that
style.
Was so good.
It was not an action, it was not a monster
Yeah.
thing. It was a horror dark movie and it worked.
Oh, it was
And it
good.
was good.
Oh, Lee Winnell,
Right?
really, he hit the nail on the
That's
head with
what I'm
that one.
saying.
It was good. It was because it was modernized in a way that made sense, and in doing so, they also took the opportunity to tackle like real life issues of like domestic violence and things and control in relationships, and just did it in a brilliant way. It looks incredible, and the performances are so
Yeah,
good that you're just
exactly.
kind of like, this is a great film, you know?
Yeah, that's it. So let's kind of do like a little recap of why it. I can't even say collapse. It barely even started. You know what I mean?
Yeah, they really got it at the
Yeah.
gate there.
So number one, it obviously had weak foundations.
Definitely.
Dracula Untold didn't work. They said it's not even canon anymore. They tried The Mummy, also did not work.
No.
Whereas
It worked less.
Where Marvel succeeded, they had Iron Man and it worked first because it did
Yes.
really well.
I think that might be what it is, right? Your first big property
Yes.
needs to work properly first. And so if
Exactly.
you do
It
a good
has
job
to
with
work.
that, you can make it work with the future
Yep,
installments.
that's it. And there was no momentum.
No, none.
Right? So
None.
it didn't work. The Mummy also, as we've seen, prioritized kind of like the setup over the actual satisfaction of
Yeah.
what the movie should have been in reality,
Mm-hmm.
right? Like you mentioned, they didn't invest in the characters.
No.
People are invested in the characters, not the universes.
Yep.
You
Yep.
have to have a connection, and because think about it, you have a whole universe that's
Yeah.
going to span 10, 18 years, whatever it is. You need to be invested in at least the main character,
I
like
find-
Tony Stark.
Yes,
Right?
if I'm
Like-
not connected, and if I'm not in something like, for instance, what they were trying to do with this, right? Like drawing, like sort of tying it together with this organization and with Dr. Jekyll, I need to care
Yep.
who Dr. Jekyll is. I need to find the organization interesting.
Yep. Exactly.
Mine, I did not. It was like some sort of like very vague super villainy thing. I'm like, where are the layers to the idea behind this organization?
yes,
you know,
yes.
it just seems like they're like, well, we're gonna capture and torture these monsters, and you're like, okay, but what's the purpose? What are you doing with them? What is the other? Where's my after credit scene of him explaining something that I'm like, oh, that's interesting. Like none of that is
Right.
really something that you get out of that movie.
That's it.
Yeah.
So that was kind of number two. There's also what we spoke about is the confusion of the movie.
Yeah.
Is it horror, action, adventure? Is it comedy. I don't know. Like it was just kind of like
the
it never
comedy in this
decided
movie
itself.
does not land at all.
I know.
It's
That's what I'm
not
saying.
funny.
Right. So that was not great.
No.
Look, the budget investment that they put into this movie, whatever, that's kind
Yeah.
of like their thing to do with. But like I mentioned, is that because it was so expensive, it didn't really leave a lot of financial wiggle room.
No.
At least in my perspective.
No,
I
it's
know
true.
they have like unlimited money probably, but you know what I mean? Like everything is segmented into its own movie or franchise or universes.
Yeah.
So like that segment of the business, quote unquote, has to make money in
It
order
does.
to continue doing things.
Yeah.
So, also allegedly, Tom Cruise had some creative control over the movie.
Oh God, what a terrible
Which
fucking idea.
kind of like bent the persona of the movie into his persona, essentially. You know, so the monsters kind of became secondary.
Well, that all makes sense to me.
Well, because it kind of was, right?
Because
Where,
it kind of
like,
was. This is like a vague Mission Impossible movie
a
that
sense.
happens to have a monster in
Yeah,
it.
that's it. Yeah, and then you know the audience urgency. There was like again, like I said, no momentum.
No.
No real build up
Nope.
except for that. Anyways, whatever. So all that stuff. Right?
Terrible.
Yeah. So what this all led is that basically in a year, by late of 2018, Bride of Frankenstein was pulled.
Yep.
You know, Kurtzman and Morgan exited,
Okay.
and all films were shelved basically,
Yeah.
and you know the office was shut down.
Yeah.
So there was, you know, nothing else. There was no sequel, no crossover, no nothing. So that is kind of like what it is that they couldn't launch it properly.
No.
Essentially. They did, I guess, quote unquote, figure it out, like I mentioned with The Invisible Man.
Yeah.
That apparently did really well.
Yes, it
If
did,
I have
yeah.
it here, the budget was 7 million
Yeah.
or something like that, and it grossed worldwide over 125.
I'm not surprised.
So it did really well.
Yeah.
And it was like a standalone thing. It wasn't a shared universe. There was no crossover. It just focused on modern horror.
Yes. Yeah.
And that's partially why it worked,
Yeah, I
right?
think so. Yeah.
The problem was that it's not that the monsters were the problem or the IP or whatever it is that it's the strategy.
It's
Essentially,
yeah,
you
it's
know?
the strategy and the script and things like that come into play, because we've seen things that have done well versus not so well even now, right? Like as early as that's at the beginning of last year, we did get a Wolfman film, which unfortunately fell fairly flat,
Right.
because it really just didn't do anything all that interesting.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's it.
So
So yeah, and then like from what I remember reading when we were doing the Frankenstein episode that Guillermo del Toro did, is that in some of the trivia, apparently that was also supposed to be, like I mentioned, in the universe.
Yeah.
Right? And he was maybe supposed to direct it, and it was just kind of all over the place. But because...
I mean, it makes sense. He's been wanting to do it forever.
Well,
so.
exactly. So first of all, he has a love for monsters. He said that himself.
Frankenstein's his
And-
favorite story.
Yeah, it's his
so.
favorite story. He still wanted to do it. It was
Yeah.
supposed to be part of it. So I guess, you know, they were kind of like, are you going to do it whenever it was supposed to come out? And then it didn't. And he said
Yeah.
that like, he was like, nope, I'm still going to do it.
Yeah.
And he got it and it freaking worked.
Yeah.
Which is another example of it doing well.
We're doing well. It's true.
Right? Because it focused on the monster. It was
Yeah.
dark and everything.
Can you imagine? I'm thinking of like after that Mummy movie, specifically in 2017, and that vibe, getting a Guillermo del Toro stylized film for Frankenstein. You would have been like, how do these fit together?
Yeah, no, that's it.
What?
It would have not made sense.
No.
Because again, stylistically, yes, some of the Marvel stuff diverted a little bit and went dark, but it wasn't like a 180-degree
No.
turn that changed it completely.
No.
Like you just said, it would have not made sense. He would have had to make some kind of like, I don't know, some action or adventure-y Frankenstein
I don't
thing,
think
which
he could have done that.
well, I don't think he would have
No,
done
I don't
that.
think. I
You
think
know
he
what
would
I
have
mean?
refused to
Like,
do that, which wouldn't have worked with the franchise at all. In that, if they were going in that direction, it wouldn't have fit in any capacity.
exactly.
God, yeah, that would have been really weird.
Yeah. That would have been way too strange.
According to, I'm just like looking through a couple of other things too that are really funny. According to this, on top of like what you had mentioned, like, an Invisible Man film, Frankenstein, Bride of Frankenstein,
Yeah.
potentially Creature from the Black Lagoon. Apparently there was some sort of indication of a Hunchback of Notre Dame film
okay.
within there. And there was also apparently a rumored side project or independent, like individual film that would have focused specifically on Van Helsing
Damn,
that
wow.
Kurtzman had been
That would've been
working
really
on.
cool, okay.
Yeah, to focus on that. And apparently there was even talk, so there was a Dr. Jekyll and Mr. Hyde film also.
That makes sense, okay,
Because
yeah,
the character was literally
introduced, that's
introduced
it, yeah.
in the first film in the franchise, and an untitled film that would have focused on Mina Harker. So like there was a lot of stuff that was like obviously that writer's room was busy as fuck because
Well, yeah.
like they were just like, here we go, we're just gonna talk about all of this different stuff. Anyway, it's such a disappointing, maybe that's why we think about it a lot, because it's such a disappointing franchise that really never came to fruition.
Yeah.
That could have been so
Could
cool.
have had so much potential.
Yeah, and
if
it's
it was just executed properly.
Yes, that's it. And I mean at the same time, luckily, like exactly what you said, we've been fortunate enough to get some really great films post all of this happening, like The Invisible Man, like Guillermo del Toro's Frankenstein. This upcoming year, we are getting a Mummy film this coming summer from Lee Cronin, who directed Evil Dead Rise.
Right, yes.
So he has a Mummy movie coming out that is going to be like straight horror, is my understanding.
All right.
So, like these people have a love for these monsters. They still want them in stuff. These are old stories in some cases. In the cases of ones that are based on books, they're very old stories, but they're something that people still crave. I mean, I do anyway. When there's like a new thing that's announced, I'm like, that's cool. Okay, great. Yeah, let's do that.
Yeah.
You guys want to do another one with like this monster, another like Dracula movie? I'm like, yeah, okay,
Well, I mean,
sounds
there's
good.
also the Bride.
Yeah,
that's coming
The
out,
Bride
right?
which is a totally different take on like the Bride of Frankenstein story.
Yeah, but
and
it
stuff.
looks like it's darker and stuff. So.
Definitely, yeah. I think now that's kind of what we're seeing a little bit more, regardless of if you like them, if you don't like them, whatever the case may be with different ones that are coming out. Like I mentioned, like, the Wolfman for me didn't really do very much, but like the tone of the story and those films are darker.
Yeah.
They are horror. They're not, I'm here for an action movie. I can watch the Brendan Fraser Mummy if I want an action movie. And apparently they're doing another one. And I'm like, that's cool. That's fine.
Yeah.
So just do that, but keep that separate from what this is. I wonder if we're going to see something more in this, because I feel like this dark universe thing it's funny, it's like it's trickled down through what the studio tried to do with it to the parks now that they've added in Universal Studios, now that they have added the entire dark universe sections to their parks. And so I wonder if to a degree that might help to reignite certain things for people, because they've got rides and they've got cool stuff
Maybe
in
that's
there.
how they're trying to do the groundwork and, create the hype.
And see what it's going to look
audience
like.
interest, exactly.
So I guess I wonder if we have this conversation again 5 years from now, what we'll be looking at.
I hope we do, because, if they do it, that means we're going to have this conversation. So I'm so
I'm like a
down for it.
conversation of hopefully it's good and it's happening and
Yeah,
it's good and
that's
everybody's happy with it. Yeah. Anyway, this is a weird franchise, but anyway, it's just the franchise that never was. So,
Unfortunately.
yeah.
Yeah.
Anyway, that's okay. Anyway, like we mentioned before, follow us on all of our socials, Gravetone Pod. You can check out our website at gravetonepod.com if you want to take a look at everything that we have over there. All the episodes and stuff are archived there as well. You can listen to them if you want to and read them if you feel like doing
That's
that. But until next time, guys, stay scared and stay tuned.
Ciao, guys.